In the cacophony of our modern existence, where everyone clamors to be heard, there lies a profound truth that many overlook. The belief that the one who shouts the loudest emerges victorious is a misconception. What if the loudest voice in the room isn't the most powerful? Machiavelli, the astute political thinker, understood this well. He recognized that those who dominate the conversation often expose their vulnerabilities, revealing their emotions and positions without even realizing it. Instead, he championed a strategy that most fail to appreciate: selective silence. This isn't mere passivity or avoidance. It's a calculated absence that commands attention. When a person like Machiavelli stops speaking, the atmosphere shifts. Silence, in this context, transforms into a powerful form of communication, one that conveys a message far more impactful than words could ever achieve. Let's clarify this point. This isn't about choosing silence for the sake of tranquility. It's about strategically withholding your voice to ensure that your silence resonates with greater significance. Machiavelli viewed words as a form of currency. If you found the pace and structure of this video engaging, a like confirms we are heading in the right direction. Support high-quality, research-driven content. Subscribe to the channel. Speak too frequently and they lose their value. Use them carelessly and they become predictable. Choose the wrong moment to express yourself, and your words can turn against you. However, when employed sparingly and with intention, each word becomes a tool, and every pause a strategic advantage. Society has conditioned us to anticipate responses. People provoke, insult, and test you, expecting you to react, to clarify, to defend your intentions. Machiavelli grasped a crucial insight. If others can foresee your responses, they will never respect your silence. Thus, it becomes essential to teach them early on that you are unafraid to embrace silence. When you withdraw your voice, it signals that a significant shift is imminent. And when that change occurs, it is never accompanied by a loud announcement. It is precise and surgical. When you cease to speak, others are compelled to reflect. This inversion of power reveals a truth. True dominance does not stem from speaking over others, but from disrupting their rhythm. Imagine wielding silence as a weapon in a world that craves noise. In the midst of your silence, they become engulfed in uncertainty. Questions flood their minds. Did I cross a line? What is he contemplating? Why isn't he responding? Your absence of sound serves as a mirror, reflecting their own anxieties back at them. Machiavelli recognized that this was not a sign of weakness. Rather, it was a means of psychological control. People are not intimidated by what you articulate. They fear the unpredictability of what remains unsaid. Never allow your silence to be a mere void. Let it be a force that compels others to reveal their true selves. The potency of silence becomes evident in moments of disrespect or betrayal. When faced with such actions, your choice to remain silent can be more devastating than any words. It grants your adversary the illusion of victory, allowing them to believe they are in control. Yet, in that silence, you create a space for them to expose their insecurities and their need for your validation. And when that revelation occurs, you strike, not with words, but with the weight of your absence, the consequences of their actions, and an unexpected power. Responding too quickly only serves to alleviate their guilt. Consider this. When someone crosses a boundary and you react immediately, you provide them with an escape route, an opportunity to play the victim. In contrast, silence allows their guilt to fester, forcing them to confront their actions alone. Machiavelli understood the art of making others feel the absence of your voice until they regretted provoking it. Not all silence signifies strength, nor does all speech indicate weakness. Machiavelli didn't advocate for silence at all costs. He encouraged speaking only when it enhances your control. This involves discerning the specific situations where words diminish your influence. What if your absence could speak volumes? Silence can achieve what speech cannot. It unsettles, reveals, and dominates. When you find yourself publicly challenged or mocked, the expectation is for you to respond. However, choosing to remain silent shifts the focus away from your reaction and onto their disrespect. Machiavelli would allow others to entrap themselves with their words, letting the silence amplify the tension until the audience begins to question their actions. When your silence endures, the dynamics shift, and it becomes clear that you have already triumphed, not through argument, but by refusing to engage in their performance. In scenarios of manipulation or gaslighting, when someone attempts to distort the truth, most people instinctively defend themselves, clarify their positions, or over-explain. But Machiavelli would advocate for a different approach, a cold response. No arguments, no emotional entanglements, just heavy, loaded silence. The manipulator begins to unravel because their tactics only succeed when you engage. Once you cease to react, they lose their grip on the narrative. After experiencing disrespect, the typical response is immediate confrontation, expressing hurt feelings, or offering resolutions. Yet, this is where many falter. The moment you speak first, you position yourself as the one seeking reconciliation. Machiavelli would withdraw, not as an act of vengeance, but as a testament to your value. This silence redefines the dynamic, making it clear that your time, presence, and voice are not guaranteed, even to those closest to you. It rewrites the power balance, leaving them feeling not just remorseful but powerless, as they realize they no longer dictate the tempo of the relationship. This tactic is subtle, yet lethal. When someone withdraws affection or validation, it serves to bait you, testing whether your self-worth hinges on their attention. Most individuals stumble when faced with this challenge. They plead, they inquire, they seek validation. In stark contrast, Machiavelli would vanish entirely. There would be no call for attention, no quest for clarity, no yearning for closure. True power doesn't manifest when you assert your worth. It reveals itself when your absence compels them to question their own significance in spaces where your silence resonates louder than any spoken word. You find yourself at the table. Everyone is engaged in a cacophony of voices, clamoring to be acknowledged, over-explaining and justifying their positions, while you observe quietly. You contribute little, perhaps speaking only once, if at all. And when you do, your words carry the weight of finality. In an age where individuals are addicted to their own voices, exercising restraint is profoundly unsettling. They ponder, why isn't he striving to validate himself? What insights does he possess that elude us? Why does it feel as though he has already made a decision? Machiavelli grasped this intricate dynamic. In certain environments, choosing not to speak signifies dominance, while those who speak first often expose their desperation for affirmation. You don't need to declare your worth. Instead, you substantiate it by withholding it. In every gathering, there comes a moment when words lose their effectiveness. You must sense it, analyze it, and honor it. Once you master the art of silence, you'll discover something remarkable. You wield greater influence in silence than many do with 1,000 eloquent arguments. Those who once prodded at your silence will find themselves hushed upon your arrival. Many assume that silence is merely silence. But that's not how Machiavelli perceived it. To him, silence was a precise instrument, not a mere void. Each type of silence has a purpose, a pressure point, and a distinct psychological impact. When wielded with precision, silence transforms into the most misunderstood and formidable form of power. Let's delve into the 4 varieties of silence and how to utilize each like a true master. First, the silence of mystery, power derived from the unknown. This is the silence that conveys you will never fully grasp my thoughts, emotions, or intentions. You keep your ambitions ambiguous. You share little about your journey. You resist responding to passive-aggressive comments. You never justify your silence. Why? Because predictability fosters comfort, and comfort breeds assumptions. Once people can decipher you, they begin to manage you. But when you remain an enigma, they lean in closer. They hesitate before speaking. They presume you possess knowledge beyond what you reveal. Machiavelli would withhold just enough to remain present, yet never enough to be deciphered. Mystery is not passive. It is a calculated ambiguity that amplifies the potency of every word you choose to utter. Second, the silence of judgment, dominance achieved through stillness. This silence is not tranquil. It is heavy, pressing down on those who feel scrutinized. You remain silent when someone makes a foolish remark, lies to you, seeks your approval, or offers a feeble excuse. What surprising piece of information from this video are you going to share with your friends first? Let's discuss this below. You don't challenge them. You don't laugh or nod. You simply maintain eye contact, allowing the silence to linger. What unfolds? They crumble. They fill the void with anxious chatter. They backtrack, confess, and self-correct. Silence in moments of judgment makes individuals feel scrutinized, not truly seen. And nothing terrifies a liar more than a man who simply listens. Third, the silence of consequence. Withdrawal as a form of punishment. This is your sharpest weapon. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue. You disappear. No words, no warnings, just a cold, complete withdrawal of access. You don't explain, threaten, or re-engage unless they demonstrate genuine change. This silence trains others like nothing else. Your presence is a privilege, not an entitlement. And when they are deprived of it, they spiral. They obsess over your silence. They consult others in attempts to decipher it. They recall you at every moment you once filled. This is how Machiavelli delivered punishment. Not through vengeance, but through absence. Because absence evokes something that arguments never could. Regret. Fourth, the silence of composure, control amidst chaos. This silence proves most effective in conflict. When someone shouts, you remain calm. When someone blames you, you don't flinch. When someone attempts to provoke you, you breathe steadily. The most emotionally dominant participant in any argument is not the one with the strongest points. It's the one who maintains control. Machiavelli never engaged in battles where others dictated the tone. His silence communicated, this conversation unfolds on my terms. And if not, it doesn't take place at all. This doesn't imply you never speak. It signifies you refuse to react at the pace of their emotions. That tranquility unsettles everyone because it renders you unassailable. People fear what they cannot provoke. Silence is not a singular tool. It is a comprehensive arsenal. Each type of silence serves a distinct purpose. Mystery for control, judgment for dominance, withdrawal for correction, composure for emotional warfare. When you master them all, you become a man who never raises his voice, yet never needs to. Because individuals begin adjusting their behavior before you even utter a word. Here's the insight Machiavelli understood better than anyone. People don't lament what they have lost. They regret what they can no longer attain. It's not about what you articulated. It's not even about the events that transpired. It's about what your silence now signifies. Once you grasp this dynamic, people will start to perceive your absence as a punishment, even if they were the ones who chose to distance themselves. Silence creates the illusion that they never truly possessed you. When you react emotionally to someone's departure, they feel they controlled the moment. They see themselves as the one who walked away. They feel empowered. But when you remain silent, no messages, no responses, no reactions, the narrative begins to shift in their minds. They start questioning, was he ever truly invested? Did I genuinely impact him? What have I just relinquished? Your absence redefines their memories. What have I just relinquished? Your absence redefines their memories. It shatters their confidence. Machiavelli recognized that uncertainty can inflict more pain than outright rejection. When someone walks away, resist the urge to chase after them. You must simply disappear. This is where many falter. When faced with a departure, they instinctively reach out. They leave the door ajar, attempting to maintain a semblance of goodwill. But Machiavelli would never stoop to such measures. He understood that silence in the wake of betrayal isn't merely a sign of maturity. It's a strategic move in psychological warfare. When they depart and anticipate a reaction, but instead encounter deafening quiet, they feel as if they've exited through a door that is now locked behind them. And at that moment, anxiety begins to creep in. Did I fail some unspoken test? Did I overrate my own importance? Why isn't he fighting for me? What they truly crave is the power of being missed, and your silence strips them of that power entirely. Provide no clarity. Let their imagination inflict the damage. You don't need to say, "You hurt me," or "You'll miss me," or "I'm done." Those are mere distractions. Such noise grants them closure, certainty, and a solid foundation to stand upon. Silence, however, leaves them with nothing tangible to grasp. It creates an open loop that their minds desperately try to close. Every attempt to decipher your silence only amplifies your influence in their thoughts. Perhaps he didn't care. Maybe I was too bold. Maybe I wasn't as significant as I once believed. Silence transforms into a mirror, forcing them to confront the truths they've tried to ignore. Never announce your departure. Make it felt. The instant you declare, "I'm done," or "You'll regret this," you've already forfeited power by providing them with an ending, a conclusion. Machiavelli understood this well. He vanished and allowed silence to narrate the rest of the tale. People remain oblivious to when it's truly over, and that uncertainty is what shatters them. They refresh their messages repeatedly. They revisit past conversations. They post on social media, hoping you'll notice. They discuss you just enough for word to travel back. I'm no longer in control, and perhaps I never was. Your absence must feel irrevocable. What fuels their return? The flickering hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll come back, that they can reach out like before, that the connection is still intact, that the bond remains alive. But when your silence becomes definitive, unyielding, and absolute, it leaves an indelible mark. They no longer perceive you as someone they dated, collaborated with, or considered a friend. Instead, you become a cautionary tale, a misstep they'll strive to avoid, yet never fully recover from. When you embrace silence, like Machiavelli, you don't leave a door ajar. You vanish entirely. Machiavelli didn't speak to be understood. He spoke to manipulate the game. Once you reach that level of influence, your silence becomes more intimidating than the loudest threats others can muster. Because when people realize that if you speak, it's game over, they begin to recalibrate everything around you, not out of respect, but out of sheer caution. Let's cultivate that persona. You must extinguish the need to be heard. Most individuals chatter incessantly due to the fear of being misinterpreted. They over-explain, divulge too much, and correct every misconception. But Machiavelli didn't worry about being misunderstood. He was concerned about being underestimated. That's the key distinction. You must learn to allow people to misinterpret you and remain unfazed by it. The more you strive to correct every perception, the more you expose your emotional vulnerability. Yet, when someone misrepresents you and you respond with silence, dismisses you and you remain unshaken, doubts you and you don't defend yourself, you become untouchable. Not because they agree with you, but because they cannot reach you, transforming into the most unpredictable presence in the room. You speak sparingly, but when you do, your words have the power to end discussions, alter trajectories, and shift dynamics. This approach only works if your silence is intentional. You don't engage in gossip, react impulsively, or enter conversations that lead nowhere, nor do you speak merely to fill silence. You remain quiet until the moment holds maximum impact, and when you finally speak, it feels like a sudden change in temperature. This is why people begin to scrutinize your body language rather than your words. They're trying to decipher what remains unsaid. That's not charisma. That's a weaponized presence. Never repeat yourself. This is where silence establishes your boundaries. If you've already articulated a standard, expressed a limit, or called something out once, there's no need to reiterate. No reminders, no nagging, no, "I already told you." You articulate your stance once, then reinforce it with silence. The absence of repetition becomes the consequence, and people will remember your standards because forgetting them results in losing access to your voice. Train yourself to withhold commentary. In conversations, they anticipate your perspective, your opinion, your validation. But you offer them nothing, not because you lack thoughts, but because your silence compels them to reflect, question, and adjust. This makes you magnetic in group dynamics because you're not the one perpetually reacting. You're the observer, waiting to see if you will. And that anticipation grants you more psychological control than any argument ever could. Machiavelli mastered this art, the ability to alter a room's atmosphere without raising his tone or volume. Let silence illuminate your strengths. When you excessively discuss your achievements, your struggles, or your projects, you diminish their value. Allow others to discover your success in their own time. Let it strike them unexpectedly after they presumed you were insignificant. People hold greater respect for what surprises them than for what you incessantly promote. This silence isn't merely a mystery. It's a shield for your reputation. Once it becomes habitual, people cease to inquire about your activities. They begin to observe you more intently, wary of what you're constructing that they can no longer access. But what happens when your silence becomes an impenetrable fortress? Will they ever truly grasp the depth of your power? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the implications of this silence and its transformative effects. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the implications of this silence and its transformative effects. Cultivating an aura of unspoken authority is essential. There's no need for loud proclamations. There's no need for physical confrontations. There's no need for threats. Your silence itself becomes a powerful signal, a defining characteristic. Eventually, this silence transcends mere choice. It morphs into your very identity. People no longer await your words. They alter their actions because they understand that when you do choose to speak, it won't be pleasant for them. Silence can overshadow an entire discussion. However, knowing when to retreat can redefine your legacy. Sometimes, the strongest move is to simply walk away. Not in a dramatic exit, not with a warning, and certainly not with a lengthy explanation, but in complete silence. When you depart at your height, when your presence is still desired, you become a legend rather than just a memory. Lingering too long can lead to deterioration. Many individuals overstay their welcome. They justify excessively, defend too long, and remain accessible until their worth is forgotten. You may believe you are helping. You may think you are holding on. But in reality, you are merely providing others with more opportunities to overlook your value. Machiavelli would advise withdrawing when you are at your strongest, allowing them to pursue an illusion they can never reclaim. Once they recognize that you have departed on your own terms, they are left to grapple with all the things left unsaid, unresolved, and unappreciated. That silence transforms into their confinement. Make your exit appear as an evolution, not a retreat. You don't disappear out of anger. You don't vanish to provoke them. You simply shift your focus. Your energy elevates. Your time becomes scarce as your life moves into a realm where they no longer fit. No announcements, no emotional outbursts, just a quiet progression forward. Now, they cannot label you as bitter or defeated, because your silence loudly proclaims, "I didn't lose you. I outgrew you." Depart just before they anticipate your absence. This is the art of anticipation. If they expect you to keep justifying, to keep repairing, and instead you vanish, you create a psychological void. They lean in, only to find nothing there. That emotional jolt leaves a deeper impact than any resolution could provide. You exit before the narrative concludes. Thus, they fill in the gaps in their own minds, and it rarely ends favorably for them. This isn't immaturity, it's strategy. Silence compels them to confront their part in your departure. Loud declarations would merely offer them an excuse. Allow them to discuss you while you remain silent. In time, they will share their version of events. They will attempt to steer the narrative. They will assume they understand your perspective. Let them believe it. Their need to rationalize reveals your strength. Your refusal to respond demonstrates your indifference. And this indifference is what dismantles them, as they find themselves justifying their actions to those who haven't asked, while you remain tranquil, unperturbed, and absent, yet still drawing attention like a force of nature. Machiavelli's most effective weapon was not vengeance. It was the silence that drove others to unravel in their quest to comprehend him. Silence creates a path they cannot escape. You don't need to inflict punishment. You don't need to wait for an apology. You don't need to conclude the story. You simply vanish with serenity. So disconcerting. They begin to see you in every subsequent silence. In every message they don't receive. In every space they enter, wondering if you are present. In every dialogue where your name is mentioned, and they recoil, they attempted to shatter you. Instead, you exited the scene and took the air with you. This is the ultimate form, silence that reshapes memory. When you speak infrequently, you earn respect. When you leave unexpectedly, you are remembered. When you disappear without closure, you become a lesson. Machiavelli never sought to be liked. He aimed to be feared, remembered, and analyzed. And you have transformed into the man who doesn't shout, who doesn't plead, who doesn't pursue. Your voice was potent, but your absence was divine. If you found the pace and structure of this video engaging, a like confirms we are heading in the right direction. Support high-quality, research-driven content. Subscribe to the channel. And in the next video, we'll discover Stop Being a Doormat, Machiavelli's Guide to Setting Boundaries.